Hello everyone, I am Cassandra Martinez and we will be presenting our case study on Trader Joe's. If you walked into a Trader Joe's store today, you would still see the quirky handwritten signage, employees in Hawaiian shirts, and a South Sea theme throughout the store, just as founder Joe Colombi intended it to be. He opened his first store in Pasadena in 1967. Colombi founded Trader Joe's with the hopes to provide great bargains to sophisticated customers. He saw the need for a grocery store for the better educated class of people. These were the group that were aware of what they were putting into their bodies and more health conscientious. They were overeducated and underpaid people. They were artsy individuals who you couldn't find at your Walmart's neighborhood market store. Colombi himself was one of those people. Once he graduated from Stanford with his MBA in 1954, he began working for Rexall Drug Store. In 1958, while with Rexall, he launched the convenience store chain Pronto Markets. He was then able to purchase the markets in 1965, but with the difficultness of the business, he shifted and opened his first Trader Joe's in 1967. Marketing is one of the areas that Trader Joe's relies heavily on their customers for. They do not have a public relations team, social media platform, or newspaper ads. Instead, they use their own employees for short TV commercials and radio ads. They also use their own Fearless Flyer as a way to introduce new products and provide information on others. In 1979, Theo Albrecht acquired Trader Joe's, with Colombi agreeing to remain CEO. Colombi then resigned in 1988 and John Shields succeeded him. That same year, Shields opened the first Northern California store. Arizona followed in 1993. They were then followed by the Chicago area in 2000. That next year, Shields stepped down and Dan Bain succeeded him. He was able to move Trader Joe's to the East Coast in 2006 and eventually the remainder of the states. Colombi also had his own approach to hiring his employees. Being that nearly 80% of the customers had attended college, many employees were also college graduates. He saw extroverted individuals who would empathize with customers. They were also well paid and had great benefits. In 2013, it was noted that a full-time employee made $50,000 a year, and store managers grossed more than $100,000. Another quirky detail was the store manager was known as the captain, and the assistant manager was the first mate, which fell into the South Sea theme. Trader Joe's continues to prove that they are one of the top stores for the organic and natural produce. They carry many different lines of food as well as their own private label. However, there are low amounts of everything, with the idea that creating more of a demand for their products. You will also notice that the stores are much smaller than your typical grocery stores, ranging from 10,000 to 15,000 square feet. Trader Joe's also does not accept coupons, have any type of membership loyalty program, and that is due to their prices being a bargain all year long. In this study, we will be diving deeper to determine if Trader Joe's supply and demand strategy is beneficial or not against its competitors.
So in terms of environmental analysis, though many people do not expect technology to play a huge role within the supermarket industry, it actually does. Grocery stores are starting to slowly become more technological to adjust with the digitized world. Digital coupons, automated sales, self-checkout lines, and flat-screen monitors are normal and expected in supermarkets. Unfortunately, Trader Joe's has not taken the time to invest into technology, and their customers do notice. Customers like to have the ability to ring their own items up and pay at the register without needing the help of an employee and/or a cashier. The lack of technology is an opportunity for Trader Joe's, however, but it's also a threat to the chic store. The rise in technology gives the company an opportunity to join the digital frenzy that keeps up with their loyal customer base. However, if the company continues to be less technologically savvy, it may result in their consumers choosing other supermarkets over them for convenience sake. With the economy that's pretty up and down sometimes, their low product pricing does give them the ability to acquire more private label companies and customers. Even though Trader Joe's typically deals primarily with the private label brands, there's always the opportunity to start carrying more of the big name brands such as Kellogg's or Windex, for example. That way it attracts customers that usually shop at their competitors who like those sort of brands. However, other supermarkets do have the ability to start carrying more private label goods as well. They can have more competitive pricing with Trader Joe's. Those are real threats that could start reeling in Trader Joe's customers that are typically loyal to them. So in the case of industry rivalry, there is a huge competition in the supermarket industry. Trader Joe's is competing against some of the world's known stores, like the biggest known stores such as Walmart, Sprouts, Kroger, Safeway, of course Whole Foods, which is extreme direct competition to them. They all try to price their products in their stores around the same to stay competitive with each other, and they typically carry the same type of products. So with threat of new entrants, I would say there's not really a threat, should we say. The market strength with these current companies, the threat's not that high, being that there's tough entry barriers. Those barriers are including like high capital adequacy, so meaning there's high capital requirements. It's also tough for them to break into the market if they don't have the sort of price matching and brand loyalty as the more established companies. So new companies don't have people who know who their brands are and people who are loyal to, should we say, that type particular store. So it's hard for them to attract the customer base of established stores like Walmart and Trader Joe's. Threat of substitution is a minor threat to all businesses or companies in the industry. Technology is taking control, and buying / ordering food online is gaining more traction with customers. The ability to buy food online causes a risk towards traditional supermarkets, but it also gives these supermarket chains the opportunity to start selling their products online. At the time in 2013, that wasn't available, but now in 2018, a lot of companies or a lot of businesses such as Safeway and Costco offer their services through places like, offer their goods through places like Amazon and Instacart. There also is the opportunity for food producers to start or being able to sell their goods directly to consumers through food fairs and, of course, farmers markets where they're direct sales. Power of suppliers is relatively low, should we say the bargaining power of those suppliers, due to the availability and large amounts of suppliers there are. Trader Joe's requires full secrecy from their vendors, and it keeps their control pretty secure. They don't want their competitors to know where their private label goods come from. This way they can retain exclusivity of their products, pricing, and customers. Since private label goods make up about 80% of their sales, their ability to change providers is pretty high, and suppliers don't have much of a bargaining power. Bargaining power of buyers, however, is a little higher than the suppliers, but still moderately low with Trader Joe's and, should we say, with the industry entirely. Since supermarkets carry similar types of goods, consumers are able to price shop between stores to find which has the cheapest prices. This does give buyers some power, but with the abundance of consumers, it doesn't do much. However, in terms of Trader Joe's, their relatively low prices and self-branded products help their customer loyalty. Their stores usually interchange 15 products with another 15 products throughout the year to provide a variety of goods that are not found at other supermarkets. Their following has been said to be similar to a cult, as their fan base is pretty large and frequently consists of higher educated individuals who have what we call struggling income, meaning they're not paid what they should be paid. With that interchanging amount of products, that means that the store is offering a differentiation of products that obviously can't be found elsewhere. So the current strategies of companies such as Walmart, Kroger, Safeway they have small profit margins. That way they can provide larger quantities of goods and brands of different products to their customers. Whereas companies like Whole Foods strategizes to provide premium goods that are natural and organic, all of which have social media presences, promotional sales, offer self-checkout lanes, and have large monitors that seem to be a big thing for an easy checkout experience. We would say their strategic intent would be supermarkets are trying to gain more shares of the grocery sales due to them falling just over 50% of sales in 2011. Pharmacy stores such as CVS and Walgreens and warehouse stores such as Costco's and Sam's Club typically require memberships, and they actually took control of the grocery market in 2013. The response to these sort of profiles are competitors are starting to try and bring in more private label goods, lower their pricing, and have common technology with one another to remain competitive in the industry and to compete with Trader Joe's. They also have started to carry some bulk size items. This way they can compete with warehouse clubs. So when it comes to the internal analysis, the strengths of Trader Joe's is extremely high. These strengths play a major part in why the company is so competitive and successful. As previously stated, their target market of college-educated individuals who are not paid what they should be is attractive to their everyday low prices and exclusive products. They set aside funds to allow their employees to sample new foods so their customers trust their opinions and the company. That way they know that the food quality is good. Their employee satisfaction is at an all-time high, as they commonly pay their employees more than expected and even provide health benefits for their part-time employees. They train their employees on everyday production, but mostly focus on the company values so their customers are treated fairly and can see the employee loyalty. Unlike other supermarkets, Trader Joe's strives to make their employees generalists rather than specialists. That means that they have their employees interchange between roles throughout the day, and it creates a range of experience for their employees and also helps make their days be less repetitive and interesting. Due to their loyal customers, the company is growing at a rapid speed and has over 400 units in 39 different states in the U.S. However, though they have tremendous growth, there also has some weaknesses that could eventually slow them down and hinder their success. So when someone goes to visit Trader Joe's, you could normally expect long lines inside the stores and extremely full parking lots outside. Many cars were backed up trying to find a parking space due to the minimal amount of spaces around. They have pretty small parking areas. Since there are no self-checkout lines and only a couple of lanes, that's why the lines are long on the inside. Then, when you're inside as well, the stores are said to be like a treasure hunt. It's very hard to find products. There's no clear direction of where things are supposed to be. The size of Trader Joe's typically are a third of the size of other supermarkets, so there's not as much room to house as many SKUs as those other supermarkets do. Their fruit is usually sold by individual pieces rather than, should we say, the typical pricing by pound. And their stores rarely have meat for sale that's not frozen, so there's no fresh meat, should we say. Their lower pricing means that they don't offer incentives such as loyalty programs, coupons, or any sort of sales. And then lastly, their potentially most damaging weakness is that they don't have a real internet presence, should we say, in 2013. Trader Joe's doesn't have social media accounts where all other companies are actively present on that and have a voice on the social media to communicate with their customers. Them not having a voice online gives critics the ability to spread false information, and it removes their customers' chance to communicate with them.
Financial ratio analysis. Exhibit 2 of our case study pulled 4 of the top 12 markets and provided additional financial data. We can use this data to determine the financial stability of the company in relation to their business strategies. We selected the current ratio, solvency ratio, profit margin, return on assets, return on equity, and debt to equity ratio. The current ratio is the assets divided by the liabilities. If the company was to liquidate its assets immediately, this ratio will show us if they are able to adequately cover all of their liabilities. The solvency ratio is operating income divided by liabilities. This ratio tells us how financially sound the company is and shines a light on their ability to close out their long-term debt obligations with operating income. Ideally, you would want this calculation to produce a 20% or higher. The profit margin is the net income divided by the revenue. This calculation will show us what percent of sales makes it to the bottom line and become actual income for the company. For example, a 10% profit margin would indicate that for every dollar made, after all expenses, 10 cents remains as income. The return on assets calculation is the net income divided by the total assets. This will show us how much $1 spent on an asset will generate in profit. For example, if you have a return on assets of 10% and spend $500 on an asset, I can expect that that asset in the course of operation will return to me $550 in revenue and a profit of $50. The return on equity calculations is the net income divided by the total equity. This calculation exposes how efficiently a company can utilize shareholder funds. For every dollar from a shareholder, we can see the percent of profit they were able to generate from it. Finally, I chose the debt to equity ratio. This is calculated by dividing the total liabilities by the total equity. This calculation will show us a company's financial leverage. We will be able to get an idea of how much of the company's assets are financed by borrowed money. The higher the percentage, the more aggressive a company is and the more volatile the earnings are. Whole Foods, who rank just above Trader Joe's at number 11, is a leader in organic and natural foods. Their consumer base is extremely health conscious. With the incline in demand for organic foods, it is not a surprise to see them in the top of the market. They have the lowest yearly revenue, but that is offset by their equally lower liabilities. If you calculate their current ratio, you can see that for every dollar of debt, they have $3.30 worth of assets that they liquidate to cover these obligations. With a 42% solvency calculation and the current ratio of 3.3, it's safe to say the Whole Foods does not rely heavily on debt. Any long-term obligations can be covered with their operating income, and their assets are generating revenue at twice their worth. In 2011, Kroger adopted a plan to redefine the food and grocery customer experience in America. They called it Restock Kroger. Their goal was to inspire America through food products and create value for their shareholders and employees. We can see by the return on equity calculation that they had the highest return at 15% in comparison to the 4 companies we are evaluating. That means for every dollar a shareholder earned, the company was able to use it to generate 15 cents in profit. Their current ratio promises that they had means to resolve their total liabilities. Their profit margin and debt reliance is less than ideal, but they are utilizing their assets efficiently. Safeway is operating as successfully as Kroger. The profit margin is higher and the debt to equity is less, showing that they are able to carry 3 cents on the dollar more for revenue to profit and have a slightly less reliance on borrowed debt. Finally, we review SuperValue. We had to check these numbers 3 times because they were so far out of left field in comparison. Surely we did something wrong, right? Turns out the wrongdoing was on SuperValue's end. While their revenue is 3 times that of Whole Foods, their profit margin shows a 2.9% loss with negative return on assets. SuperValue was an Eastern-focused store that reported over 5,000 locations in their 2012 fact book. They adopted an 8 plays to win strategy to maintain low competitive pricing. However, their net operating income is not enough to cover their total liabilities, and their current ratio reveals that after liquidating all their assets to cover their debt, SuperValue wouldn't have a cent to their name. With ownership over stores like Acme, Albertsons, Shop and Save, and more, it's obvious that the cost of operating these stores was more than they were returning in revenue. The return on equity and debt to equity results alone should have investors steering clear of them. After reviewing the financial analysis, it is clear that the spectrum of success in the supermarket industry is diverse. Each supermarket has its own strategy with a tailored product and consumer focus. When we compare Whole Foods, Kroger, Safeway, and SuperValue, their revenues cannot be trusted to rank their success. Whole Foods, much like Trader Joe's, is not concerned with an abundance of locations to sell. Rather, they are focused on products they sell and who they are selling to. Whole Foods wants to attract health-conscientious people that don't need the conceit of location as much as the convenience of good quality organics and natural foods. For them, if their consumers truly care about organic, natural, and healthy foods, a little travel time won't matter. You can see that they are incredibly small scale, with 340 locations and only 73,000 employees. Kroger and Safeway both fall in the middle of the spectrum. They have an incredible amount of locations, resulting in an equally higher employee pool. They sell a variety of food. While each store offers a section of inorganic, it is not their focus. Their profit margins are sustainable, but don't leave much room for error or missteps. And we can see that SuperValue has outdone itself. With over 5,000 locations and over 40,000 SKUs, we can safely say that they have too many eggs and too many baskets. These numbers are all from 2011, and we know today that they soon realize this, and we are all witness to stores like Albertsons shutting down and are selling out. While they provided farm-fresh foods, most of their aisles contain processed and boxed food items. It is not to say that this strategy of abundance is a reason for the unstable financial situation. However, their revenue per square footage was simply not a sustainable business model. At the time, Kroger maintained 2,435 retail locations, less than half of SuperValue, yet brought in twice as much revenue. Ultimately, Trader Joe's strategic approach of limiting supply to drive demand shows to be a valid and successful approach. When we compared 4 of the top 12 supermarkets, the consistent results appear to support the claim that less is more. While a bigger sample group may be required to prove this seemingly existent correlation, based off of our review, it stands true. The draw of being everywhere at once seems enticing to a company. What better way to reach every consumer than by being easily accessible to every consumer? Unless you're a gas station corner store chain, I would rethink this strategy. The food industry has seen a subtle shift to demand for organic and natural homegrown food. Chains like Chipotle, Mexican Grill, and Safeway are looking to localize their produce supplies to nearby farms when possible. Consumers are drifting back to the basics and shying away from products that have been genetically modified. Health awareness is rising, soda sales are dropping, and the new generation taking over the market is interested in fresh, new, fun, and something Instagram or Snapchat worthy. Trader Joe's and Whole Foods are succeeding in today's market because each visit to one of their stores is an adventure with new discoveries. Consumers can leave with their bags full of products they feel great about buying, and the best result any company can ask for is their shoppers to leave content so that they can return excited once more. That is the end of our case study. Thank you for watching.